What's up, everybody? It's Carpolera. I got my hair cut, and now I look like Jimi Hendrix back in 1971. I was looking for a hat, and I found this instead. So, I'm back and making some videos here, and I just wanted to try to consolidate some of these ideas I've had in the last week. But I mentioned in the one I uploaded the other day about life, I was talking about how life has no form, no essence other than itself. Life is not the body. Life is not something created by the mind. And life is not a figment of the imagination in any sense that we understand it. But Who Are You is the name of a book, actually, that I was reading the other day. I did not realize that until I said the words, but who are you was the question that I was going to ask. And who are you really? Are you you? Are you yourself? You know, I've got this wig on, but it's kind of a metaphoric example. What if we were able to do a brain transplant, fully operational brain transplant? Would that, and I haven't done I don't know how much research they've done on this or whatnot, but you know, how much of the personality would remain with the brain in the new host? There have been questions of things like, what if a person is falling apart and they end up getting, you know, a bone marrow transplant, all new organs, synthetic blood, or a blood transfusion, to where the person is basically 99% a new person. What constitutes the individual? You know, what makes a person a person? This question has been kind of teased at by many different sides and many different beliefs, but it's not, nobody can seem to really pin down exactly what you are. And the harder, the deeper you look into it, the more complicated it becomes, because we're people, sure, and we're a group of people that have bodies and have minds. And we're under the impression that our minds dictate our behaviors, that our minds are conditioned by our environment, and to a certain extent that's true. But the self, as an individual, where does that reside? Now I've looked into experiments that people have done with various lab animals where they've removed parts of the brain. They've done rats where they've removed a piece of the brain to see if they can still run a maze and find the cheese or whatever. And after removing all the different parts of the brain, the rats could still find the cheese. One by one, of course, not the whole brain. So what they do is eventually they take the brain and basically throw it in a blender and just throw it back in there, and it still works. It's a very amazing thing. It means that the brain structure, while it is important for all of our functions, you know, prefrontal cortex and cerebellum, cerebrum, and all the different components that make it what it is, there's no specific place that makes us us. As far as we know, there are areas that you can, destroy a person's memory or make a person forget who they are. But they still have a life and an essence, you see. There's still a life running that body. That's one of the biggest hurdles to understand. Nobody's been able to find a part of the brain where you can destroy the person. You destroy the life by killing the body, but you don't destroy the life in the sense that it's gone. People have been trying to explain where people go when they die, since people have realized that they die. And so people have created often this image that the mind is separate from the body, that the person is separate from the body. And a lot of folks see this and say, well, saying that life force is separate from body is just an excuse to say that there's an afterlife. And for a lot of people, that's how they see it. But if you look at it from a completely neutral standpoint and start doing research on as much as you can on how the brain works and what life is, you'll find that It's the biggest question in science, is not just where we're going and where we're from, is who we are. You know, who are you as an individual? And I am very open-minded on it. I don't believe in, I've been through a phase where I wanted to understand how reincarnation worked as far as how people thought it worked. And the more questions I asked, the more loose ends there were to reincarnation as it's stated by the people that believe in it. For example, one soul goes into one body. And then I've heard of people having past life regressions or hypnosis where they find that they were a famous person in their previous life, let's say. And there's someone on the other side of the world that's alive at the same time who also claims to be a reincarnation of that person. So we have two people alive that are claiming to be a reincarnation of the same person. And my belief is that if reincarnation is true, then there are bits and pieces of our spirit, our essence, that are pushed forward, I guess, or maybe remain, since time is non-existent, but we can't get into that. You have a, how would it work? Let's see, you got 7 billion people on the earth. I've heard that today there's more people alive than have lived in a huge portion of history up till a certain point. I can't remember the exact dates, but you do the math and it doesn't come out right. Souls have to be introduced in order to take a body, right? If that was the way it worked. And therefore the souls have to come out of something. And if you want to take it all the way back to the beginning, you have to realize that 7 billion souls on this planet had to start from nothing. So therefore this was the mind of God separating itself into components, or was it something more interesting to where each individual really is an individual? Because we could look at ourselves like neurons. Each individual person is a neuron within the brain of a larger picture, but everything becomes speculation once you start looking into reincarnation. But if a person really does reincarnate, then that makes the self non-existent in the body form. I guess to sum it up, I could say that the deeper you look into who we are, the more hopeful it becomes that we're more than we think we are. Because while I've tried to disprove many of the theories I've had, I've found that I can't. Not the theories I've had, but the ideas, such as, well, people propose this, let's see how we can prove that life just is in the brain. If there was one portion of the brain that we could switch between two people and have them become different people, each other, that would be some serious implication. I mean, that would change the whole view of the way life is viewed, but it hasn't happened yet. And all the scientific experiments we've done, there's a lot more we haven't known about, the hidden ones behind closed doors. But to this point, we're still trying to figure out exactly what life is. And so when I wake up and look in the mirror, it's like, it's so hard not to associate me with me, but to remember that I am just a consciousness. And I don't know how it works. I don't understand it. But I think it's the most important thing for us to see is ourselves from the standpoint of using this body to fulfill the interests of the spirit. Using this three-dimensional reality to express ourselves. I mean, what else is there? What other reason would there be for existence? I can't explain evolution. Nobody can. I can't understand how these things work. I don't even care about biological evolution. I'm not talking about us coming up from apes, because to me that doesn't answer anything. I already believe that we evolved to an extent. I do believe in random mutation. There are obvious things that have happened through history, but it doesn't negate the idea that there's a higher power or a force. And that force encompasses just everything. It's just, It's just amazing. I just wanted to point that out, to remember that we are not our bodies. And when you're 12 years old and when you're 80 years old, you have the same, you have different ideas, but you're the same person. You can't take away that person and those experiences unless you get something like Alzheimer's, which is, there's a curse. So, Carpet is out. Peace.